Third down and 20.
What is going on? Welcome back. 3rd and 20 podcast, episode 32. My name is Frank Entwistle. We got the man himself dancing over there on the right side of the screen. What's going on, Steed? How you doing?
Doing pretty well. My Super Bowl team is still in here, so that's why for the dance moves and moving on to the divisional round. Pumped.
Yeah, my Super Bowl Colts, man, they got knocked out in a tough game against the Bills, but I think the real sadness for me was going into my take the floor, actually. The Steelers lost to the Browns at home against the dirty Browns. The Browns pick up their first playoff win in 17 or 18 years.
Since 92.
Yeah, basically since Vietnam. And surprise, our receivers, mainly Juju Smith-Schuster and now Chase Claypool, are in the media again. This has been kind of the going story for the Steelers almost for the past couple of seasons at this point, where our skilled players are always in the news, always stirring the pot somehow. We thought we had figured out that problem, getting rid of guys like Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, but now it's always coming around. And this week I was thinking, because I was really feeling in the dumpster after that loss. I was really upset because I said in the last episode, I thought this was a great playoff matchup for the Steelers football team. And it kind of got me thinking, right? Everyone in the NFL starts out poor. And what do I mean by that? They get big contracts. I'm not talking in monetary value. Some of the guys, yeah, they're on the lower end of the spectrum if you're an undrafted player or a late round draft pick. But in terms of yards, touchdowns, legacy, wins, everyone starts out at zero. No one comes into the NFL with one or more. Everyone's always at the same ground. Everyone starts out poor. And everyone is trying to get rich. When you're an NFL player, you want to get wins, yards, touchdowns, all that jazz. That's your goal when you join an NFL team, especially as a receiver. And Steed, I want to ask you this. Have you ever met someone that started out poor and then became rich? Did they show off a lot? Were they going out to restaurants every night and buying new cars?
Do I know someone personally or just like someone?
Just in general. When you see someone that starts off poor that goes to rich, aside from the niche cases where it's like a rapper or something.
I was about to say like the Wolf of Wall Street, but most cases, like if you like come from a place with no money and you build up, you don't take it for granted.
Yeah, you're not and even a lot of people say these rappers and the Wolf of Wall Street guy, when he came crashing down, these guys eventually then fizzled out, and the things ran out. They weren't always at that peak. They were a little too flashy. And to be completely honest, that's what I feel like I'm seeing from these Steelers right now, is that they seem kind of like the trust fund kids of the NFL, living off of the success of the Steelers teams before them. Juju, 0-2 in playoff games. Claypool, now 0-1 in his first playoff game. There are only 6 starters on the team that have a playoff win. Ben Roethlisberger, Villanueva, Marquise Pouncey, who just retired, David DeCastro, Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt. Maybe you count Vince Williams because he kind of started here and there. I don't see any of these guys in the media. I don't see any of these guys dancing on logos and saying after losses, oh, well, they're going to get whooped by the Chiefs next week. Who cares? I never see him talking shit. It's work and respect. 2 things that Mike Tomlin preaches. And at the end of the day, when you're wearing the black and gold, this is a team that you need to do more than just do well in the regular season. This is a team that is tied for the most Super Bowl wins in history in the NFL. And at the end of the day, I really feel like, aside from the TikToks and all that bullcrap, just the talking in the media, stop trying to act rich when you're poor. You have no playoff wins. The receiving group was, for a large part, inconsistent down the stretch of the season when things got down to push to shove, and we needed them to step up when the run game was not working. So stop talking shit until you start winning. And just lastly, the rich get rich by acting poor. The poor stay poor by acting rich. And I think that these Steelers receivers really need to hear that. But with that being said, let's move on. And in the news this week, crazy NFL week, by the way, Deshaun Watson is rumored to possibly be requesting a trade from the Texans. This is mainly caused by the fact that, A, the Texans suck. You just look at the moves that
They're not
GM
good.
of the year, Bill O'Brien, made. Everyone knows. Trading away DeAndre Hopkins, one of the top receivers in the NFL. And in general, the trade for Laramie Tunsil ends up just blowing up in their face. All these moves have really just culminated into the fact that now the Texans would have been picking third in the draft, but they are without their first and second round picks. They have no talent aside from J.J. Watt, basically, on the defensive side of the football, and a handful of other guys. It's not that they have zero players. And now just Deshaun Watson may want out. So, Steed, first off, do you think Deshaun Watson requests a trade? And also, just real quick, he's gotten very pissed off because they went out and hired a GM, Nick Caserio, who is the director of player personnel from New England from 2008 to 2020. He was told he was going to be involved in the process, but was not. Steed, what do you think?
Well, yeah, if I was told that I was going to be involved in the process and then yet I'm not, that was an abundant lie, I'm going to be very mad, and then I'm going to look at a franchise, even though they've given me money. What did you do for me this year? You didn't put anything around me. You gave me a old head and David Johnson that really didn't produce, maybe a little bit towards the end. You got rid of my favorite target. You gave a defense that couldn't do anything out there. So I'm going to be pissed about that, and I truly don't think he's going to be traded unless he truly requests a trade and pulls some Jamal Adams stuff, because I still think if they hire the right head coach, he'll if they get Bieniemy, the Chiefs OC, I still think that would be a good match for him, and he would be able to heal the relationship and get trust back there. But if that doesn't happen, and I could see him going, but I think it's less than likely to me.
Yes, I agree with you. I do not believe that Deshaun Watson will be ended up traded for a couple of reasons. The first being that I do think that the Texans will try everything possible to mend the broken relationship with Deshaun Watson. I think the other scenario that we're going to get into now, assuming Deshaun Watson does request a trade, or the Texans start shopping him out, where is he going to go? So one of the reports that initially came out was saying, whatever you think you could give up for Deshaun Watson, it's more. So that's already a little bit of a buyer beware, it feels like, from the Texans organization, saying, hey, you're going to have to give up a metric ass ton to get this guy. So I did this little thing where I valued Deshaun Watson as the first pick in your standard NFL draft. Not this NFL draft, because obviously there's Trevor Lawrence, and if you go by what I went by, the Jimmy Johnson trade value chart, the first overall pick would be valued in a vanilla draft at 3,000. This draft, it would probably be valued at 4,000 plus, just because this is a generational quarterback prospect, and you would have to give up that 4,000 value is 4-5 plus first round picks, and that's including some top tier first round picks. So
Mm-hmm.
Let's just assume here, and this may be lowballing a little bit, that Deshaun Watson is valued at 3,000 on this trade chart. I went through all of the teams that were rumored to be in the running for Deshaun Watson. So let's start here going through all the teams. This includes the Dolphins, the 49ers, the Washington football team, the Patriots, the Colts, the Bears, and the Jets. I think that those are the teams right now that desperately need a quarterback and would be willing to give up for Deshaun Watson. So before we start this, Steed, if you had to choose a spot for Deshaun Watson to go, where do you think he would end up?
I still like the Patriots a lot because I think it makes a lot of sense. And, Belichick's an older coach, and maybe he doesn't want to draft a quarterback this year. Just give him someone with, who's already been in the league, proven himself, and, Deshaun's at MVP caliber, where we've seen that even though they paid for a corner Stephon Gilmore, we've seen the Patriots walk away from players and not pay them before. They could trade a young corner in J.C. Jackson and then trade away some 3 of their first round picks for the next 3 years and this year's second. And I would think that gets it pretty much close to being done. And that would just be a good spot for him landing in New England.
Okay, so let's start with the Patriots then. The Patriots' 15th overall pick is valued at 1,050. Let's throw in their second round pick as well, which would be valued at 440, pick 46. Their 2022 first, I value around 800 on this trade value chart, which would basically be that first round wildcard exit team with a slight discount for being a year in the future. And their 23 first at 750 for a similar thing, but more of a discount because it's in the future. That would add up to 3,040, which would probably not be enough because if you, historically speaking, to trade up in the draft, according to this trade chart, you need to overpay by a decent margin to get the team that has the high asset to pull the trigger. It's not always the case, but generally speaking, that is what the case has been. So you said add in J.C. Jackson as well.
Yeah.
Depending on where you value J.C. Jackson, I think you're right. That would be pretty darn close to getting the trade done. Let's just assume that J.C. Jackson is valued at a second round pick, which may be even a little bit conservative with the season that he had and his potential. That would equate to about 3,500 in value. I think you're right. Like, if he requests a trade, that's probably getting the deal done. I'm not even sure you have to give up J.C. Jackson. You may just have to give up a second round selection in 22 or 23, or maybe a small little package of third rounders and fourth rounders here and there, maybe some sort of conditional picks. And I think that would get the deal done. And that is also the reason why I think the Patriots, while it may seem a little out there, aren't really a terrible destination for Deshaun Watson to land. I think that when you compare him to some of these other teams that we're going to be looking into, there is a possibility here. They have the picks. It's not completely unreasonable. Yeah, they're giving up multiple first round picks, but because the fact that their selection at 15 carries a nice amount of value, plus their first round picks in the future, their 46 is not a bad pick at all. They still have some talent on the roster. I don't necessarily see it happening if I'm the Patriots. I think that they need more of a team. But at the end of the day, compared to some of these teams that we're going to be bringing up, not completely unreasonable. So let's get into the next team, and one of the teams that he has been rumored to go to a lot, and that is the Dolphins. And for good measure, this is an organization that has a clear path to being able to trade for Deshaun Watson. If you give up pick 3 and pick 18, that is worth 3,100 in value. You add Tua in there, which is a replacement quarterback, a guy who was picked 5th overall last draft. If Deshaun Watson is requesting a trade, that's probably one of the best trades that could happen. And whether you're giving up Tua or not, you just assume they are so that they can get a quarterback back so that they can use that number 3 overall selection on the best player available or even to trade down for more picks. But that seems like a great scenario for both sides, and it works in terms of the value if Deshaun Watson is valued as the first overall pick or even a little bit more than the first overall pick in your vanilla draft. What are your thoughts on that one, Steed?
Yeah, I think that would be really good. I think it's funny that the Texans would be trading for their spot in the draft, because
Yeah.
of for the previous trade. But like, yeah, I think that definitely gets it done. From the Dolphins' standpoint, still the book's not out on Tua, but like to get Deshaun, and like how like thin it is to win the Super Bowl when you have a really good team. Does Deshaun get you there with that team? That's a question, or do you just keep building around Tua? But let's say they do that trade, and the Texans only do it because they like need a quarterback and want to be safe with Tua, but they're sitting there at 3. Do they just take best player available, or just say screw it, like we kind of like Zach Wilson too, and then just take him and try to move Tua?
So the other possibility that the Dolphins could have that I was trying to think of without giving up both pick 3 and 18 in the draft is that you could give up pick 3 probably has to go. At the end of the day, it carries too much value. It has to be
Yeah, it
traded if
has
you
to.
want
Yeah,
Deshaun
it's
Watson.
gone.
But you could give up both of the Texans selections that you got from Larry Tunsil, pick 3 and 36, Tua, selection 80 in this draft, and then probably a 22 or 23 second or a package of other mid to later round picks. And that also might be able to get the deal done. It's definitely less value. It's not that clean 3,100 value. You get 2 good first round picks and Tua, but you're floating around the high 20s. It's somewhere around 2,700 to 2,900, depending on how some of these future picks are valued. But let's just assume you give up 336 and a first next season. That plus Tua, I imagine that's pretty darn close to getting the deal done. You keep pick 80 and you keep pick 18 this year to draft a receiver. That might be pretty enticing if I'm the Dolphins, because at the end of the day, I still
Yeah,
have my first round selection this year, which could easily be a Rashad Bateman, a Jalen Waddle, a Rondale Moore, a Kadarius Toney, a guy that could be a number 1 receiver on my team. We still have Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki. We add Deshaun Watson, and then we still have selection, I think it's 50 something with their second round pick, and selection 80. We give up the first next year, but all of a sudden we have Deshaun Watson, a couple of still quality selections this year. Yeah, we don't have the first next year, but this is all of a sudden a team that's looking like it can compete now and
yeah,
possibly dethrone the Bills, who are looking insane in just one offseason.
yeah. For out of all the teams that where Deshaun can land, it's definitely Miami that has all the ammo that can pull this off and not really, jeopardize losing a lot in return. They have so many picks; they can go away any way about it, and it's really interesting to see if it does happen, do they jump on it?
Yeah, I mean, I completely see why, just because of the ammunition they have and the different combinations they can put together that works for both sides. If Deshaun Watson wants out, the Dolphins are going to be one of the favorites for him to go there. So now let's get into some of the other teams. The 49ers are probably another team that people really like Deshaun Watson to go to. And in terms of the ammunition, I think they have enough. The problem with the Niners is their cap. And me and Steve were talking before the episode. Let's just go with the combination that they need. Probably they need to give up 12, which is 1,200 in value. Probably
Mm-hmm.
43, which is another 470. So now we're sitting 1670. Give up the 22 first, which I value around 700 to 750, just because that 49ers team is going to be looked at as a playoff team. So now we're sitting at around 2,400. Probably have to start throwing in a bunch of other selections, most likely that 23 first. And that may start getting the deal done. But the problem is you're in a bad cap scenario. You're giving up 3 first-round picks and a second-round pick, maybe even more picks. My whole thing is, if I'm the GM of the 49ers, I think I would rather just trade up in the draft for less of a price to get my shot at one of these quarterbacks, whether it's Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, or even maybe stay put and take someone like a Mac Jones or a Kyle Trask if you like him, rather than give up so much draft capital for a guy that already is not on that rookie deal. Because we got to pay Bosa. We're probably going to have, this in the future, right? While Deshaun Watson is there, while you're in the championship window, you're going to have to pay the defensive talent you drafted, a lot of defensive line guys. You have offensive linemen like that kid from Notre Dame that you drafted that you're going to have to pay, some good receivers. You just paid Kittle. Sooner or later, the money's going to run out. And if I get a rookie quarterback for the next 5 years on a rookie deal, I can keep these guys around and maybe extend my championship window, even though we don't have Deshaun Watson. So I think the 49ers, for me, are a little bit too unrealistic with how much they'd have to give up in their cap situation.
Yeah, I agree. I think their smartest plan of attack would be just try to get one of these younger quarterbacks, have them on the rookie deal. If you can get there with Jimmy G, you can get there with some of these talent quarterbacks in the draft, especially under Shanahan. If Shanahan really likes a guy, I'm sure he is legit, and just kind of ride the rookie contract and get yourself back in the Super Bowl. I mean, I think that's the way I would do it, not put the rest of your roster in jeopardy over just trying to trade for one guy to change the franchise, when I think they're in a spot where, they just need someone in there that can kind of just run the offense and figure it out. You don't need that transcendent guy, even though, if you trade up, I mean, there's some great quarterbacks in this class that can get the job done.
So now I'm going to lump together some of these next teams because they're all in a pretty similar spot. And let's just include Washington football team, Indianapolis, Chicago Bears, and then even a team like the Steelers, right? One of these playoff teams that needs a quarter, they're in an even worse spot. So let's take the team that has the highest draft capital in the Washington football team and apply it to all those other teams. But just remember that all those other teams would have to give up more because their picks are worth less. Washington football team, if they give up pick 19, pick 51, a 2022 first and a 2023 first, and selection 82. And in this valuation, I've valued their 2022 and 2023 first pretty favorably. Mm-hmm. They would add up to $29.95, not even at that 3,000 line that we set that we thought was relatively low. So just to recap, that is 3 first-round picks, a second-round pick, and a third-round pick. And you're still not there. So if you're one of these teams, are you really giving up more for that than that for Deshaun Watson? You're in the realm of, you may have to give up 4 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson, a guy that's not even on a rookie. Yes, it's on a relatively favorable contract. I'm not acting like Deshaun Watson. Yeah, he's getting paid a decent amount, but in terms of what you'd have to pay a quarterback at his level now, it's a pretty favorable deal. But it's not a rookie deal. So if for all these teams, it's 3 firsts, a second, and a third this year. Well, 3 firsts in total, a second and a third this year, right? Is still not enough. I'm not sure if I'm a GM, I can pull the trigger on a deal like that, no matter what team I am. I think it's just too much. What are your thoughts for all these teams? And not to mention, real quick, that the Bears are in a similar cap spot to the 49ers, right?
Yeah. I think that's just really tough. I think you're just giving up too much for him, to be honest with you. I know that he's a top 10 quarterback. He's a great talent. It's just at what cost? You lose half your draft this year, and then you lose, 2 of your first round picks for the coming years because of it. It's just you're giving up your future for this guy, hoping that you can win with him. I mean, I think that's a lot of – you put in a lot of stock into them, and I'd rather just keep my eggs in different baskets and draft other players.
Yeah, I agree. And even if you wanted a quarterback, I think that these teams, you just better off maybe taking more risk, but giving up less draft capital to move up to take a quarterback either this year or next year, or even trying to play the free agency game. Let's say Stafford is in free agency. I think I'd rather just try to pick up someone like him, maybe even
Yeah.
trade for a Matt Ryan who's supposedly on the block, because I think you're right. The fact is, unless Deshaun Watson really forces his way out and the price goes down for him, which could happen if he gets really pissed off and they completely blow the head coaching situation and he says, I'm going or I'm just sitting and not playing, and then the price goes down for him, okay, then that's different, right? Because then you don't have to give up, 4 firsts
Yeah.
for him. But where the situation is right now, I think you're right. It's just too much. And, that's for the most positive case in terms of the Washington football team, whose picks this year are valued highest. You look at a team like the Colts, who are 2 picks down, whose selection loses 75 value from the first round, another 30 value in the second round. Like, that's another future second, future third round pick that you have to add on. It's like, okay, yeah, we know Deshaun Watson is good, but at what price is it just too ridiculous? And at what price would you rather just move up in the draft for not giving up 4 first round picks to take a prospect that I don't have to pay as much? And it's a little more risky, but if it pans out, the reward is too great, and I still have a future.
Yeah.
But last team, the Jets are another team that has the possibility, just because I don't really see this one happening, and I'm not sure Deshaun Watson wants to go from the Texans to the Jets. But
Yeah, not much of an upgrade.
regardless, you give up pick 2 and pick 23 this year, I think that's enough if you're the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of value, you're at about 3,300, 3,400 value. You
Yeah,
can't
you can
ask for much
easily.
more there.
Yeah, and then with that second pick, you could take someone like Fields and then fill in the gaps from there.
Yeah,
I
you
mean, the
have your
Jets could do it.
run of the mill at quarterback. You can take whatever, aside from Trevor Lawrence, you can take whatever quarterback you want.
Yeah, you're the next one up. What do you want? So,
So
and
that could
I
easily
mean,
get done. You may
yeah,
not
it
even have
could.
to give up 2 and 23. You might be able to give up 2 and seconds and what, like, just the fact that you're giving up pick 2, which is a quarterback, or I mean, if you don't want to take quarterback, if you're the Texans, you trade Deshaun Watson and you don't, I'm not sure why you would pass up on a quarterback. It's just too important. But regardless, that could be Devontae Smith or Penei Sewell right now, or Jamar
Yeah.
Chase or whoever, which is still a top quality prospect. Or you could trade down for a haul for a team that wants to trade up for a quarterback. So, like, the fact of the matter is, if you have pick 2, you could trade for him. It's in the realm of possibility. That pick 2 carries a ton of value. I don't even think you'd have to get, if you really wanted to keep on to 23. I don't even think you'd have to give it up.
It'd be interesting. It's just I wonder if the Jets the Jets are just such a question mark too, and I don't think they're going to figure out what they're going to be doing. I mean, this all matters until Deshaun Watson is like, yeah, I want to be traded. Like, it's just all rumors right now, kind of thing. But
Yeah,
like,
and it's fun to talk about. We
yeah,
both
it's
said we
fun.
don't think he's going to be traded, and also, like, I just don't. If you're the Jets, why would you trade for him? You're just not really a team in position to. But at the end of the day, it's in the realm of possibility. If you really like him, let's just say you don't like the quarterback prospects from your analysis. If you're Joe Douglas, and you say, "Hey, we can give up this 2 pick and a third or a second and pick up Deshaun Watson, a guy we know is good, and
Yeah,
still have draft capital," um, not completely out of the realm of possibility. And on top of the fact that they have a ton of cap space. But let's
yeah,
move on
true.
in here. Let's get into wild card reactions. So, Steed, we're gonna just whatever I think the first one I do want to cover in terms of wild card reactions is Taylor Heineke. What a performance from the Washington football team! Like,
Yeah,
fourth string quarterback coming into the year. Um, So let me ask you this game. Is there any chance that this guy is going to be looked at for a starting job? Any outside shot that he's going to be in the mix come training camp for a starting job?
Dude, man, I really don't think so. But I think he could be in the mix because he did play well in the other game where he got into before week 17. I think it was week 16 he came in. He played pretty well there too. And people were telling me, yo, that Taylor Heineke guy, man, he's a good player. He can play some ball. I'm like, all right. And, you see the players like reacting. Like that play where he dodged, like, he kind of like young Rush out there, like maneuver around the pocket, making all these guys miss and then rush for the touchdown. I mean, based off his play, I think he definitely earned a spot where he could be in the contention. I don't think he's a guy. I don't think you can legitimately sit here and tell me, all right, should we not draft a guy in like a Trey Lance or something like that, a Mac Jones, and we just ride with Taylor Heineke, and we're gonna win the division again next year. You could tell me that, like, sit down full confidence. I don't think anyone could tell me that. I think it's just one of those like moments where the dude had a good performance, but if it was through a whole season, I don't think he could. I don't think he could do it.
Yeah, I agree. The only problem is that Washington football team picking at 19.
Yeah,
Are
I
you going to
mean,
want to take a quarterback there? Are you really? Because realistically, you're either reaching on one of the quarterbacks that has fallen, which as of right now looks like it's going to be a Mac Jones or a Kyle Trask. Okay, that's not terrible. Now, I think that these two guys in particular might rise come draft time, especially the fact that Mac Jones has been playing really well. Yeah, he had a couple misses in the
Mac
national
Jones,
championship game, but
he looked great on the
yeah,
national
all in
championship
all,
game.
though, he has looked really nice. I also love the fact he's got that nice gut on him.
Oh
Reminds
yeah,
me of
he's got
like
that
that
little.
classic quarterback.
Yeah, he's not like the ripped guy. He's just got like kind of like that Tom Brady-esque body coming in the draft, just a quirky little dude.
Well, no, he's
I
not
like that.
Tom. Tom Brady was a skinny guy. He's got like
Yeah,
that
but
Ben
like
Roethlisberger kind of gut. I'm
yeah,
talking.
like it just like not like defined, like built like we see like
Oh yeah,
every quarterback. Like
he's
you
got
see
the Tom
Justin
Brady
Fields, like
athleticism.
yeah.
But I don't know. I love that because now like the modern quarterback is like, oh, you gotta be mobile, you gotta be chiseled like all the other positions. Mac Jones is out there just slamming beers, eating cheeseburgers, throwing touchdowns. I
Hey
love
man,
that,
it's not
dude.
that hard.
A lot of Steelers fans were posting pictures in the Steelers subreddit saying like, we need this guy. He's the heir to Big Ben. Like
I think he's going to be a good little quarterback in the league. I like him a lot.
I think he throws a good football. I had always thought like I had seen some of his I was looking at like some of his workouts at random scouting combines on YouTube and stuff. I thought he threw a great football. And I mean, I didn't see his game action until this year and I haven't done my analysis on him, but I thought that he's been a guy that has been a little bit underrated just because everyone's saying, "Oh, well, he plays for Alabama. They're always open." And that's lazy
You see
analysis.
Devontae Smith, he was always open.
He was always open. I'll give you that. But I think it's lazy. But at the same time, like Taylor Heineke, man, dude, I don't think it's. I think it is a stretch. I'm not. I'm not going to come out here and say, "Oh, Taylor Heineke starting quarterback." I underrated him though, dude. 306 passing yards, 46 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 78.4 quarterback rating
Hey,
against the Bucks defense, dude. All I'm saying is people are crowning Jalen Hurts as a starting quarterback. I mean, you Taylor
true.
Heineke has basically done the same thing. Yeah, for not as many
Yeah,
games, and he wasn't as
true.
high of a draft pick. But my God, he looked good throwing the football, and apparently the coaching staff likes him. The players love him. I don't think it's crazy. I think what could happen is the Washington football team tries to bring in a veteran quarterback, like a Case Keenum kind of a guy, right? To battle in camp with Heineke. Um, it would be a stretch. I think that they're definitely going to look at quarterback, but they could easily be a team that's picking at 19. Maybe they can't pull the trigger on a trade up and they don't like the quarterbacks that are on the board. So they try to pick up a Keenum, they have a Heineke, and maybe they spend a second or third round selection on a quarterback instead of that 19. They try to just add some talent to their roster at a hole that they have at 19. If that scenario falls out, I think he's got a legit shot.
Yeah, he's definitely played himself into a discussion in the offseason where we got to get this guy a look. I mean, he's played into himself that way, and it's just I look at it kind of like as similar like Gardner Minshew, like just these no-name quarterbacks, like late round draft picks that come in, play well, they're good players. It's just, what's your end goal at the end? Like your end goal, like the main goal of the season is to win the Super Bowl. I just don't see a world where we live in a world with Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Josh Allen's, Lamar Jackson's, where you put Taylor Heineke's name right next to him, like where he's gonna be holding up the trophy. Like that's the way I look at it, dude. That's just the way.
No, that's completely fair, and I understand where you're coming from. If I'm a gambling man, I'm not betting that Taylor Heineke's a starter, but I just think that there's only so many top-end quarterbacks in the class. Washington football team is picking at 19. This is a team that obviously needs a quarterback, but they may just look to fill that position in other holes instead of trading up or picking at 19, which at the end of the day will give this guy a shot. And it's not like it's never happened before. It's not like we haven't seen a guy on the Washington football team. Look at Kirk Cousins. The guy was like he obviously wasn't as late of a pick, but he's still third round pick, got his chance, took advantage of it, and then landed in a starting job. It could be a similar role for Heineke. I'm not counting it out. At the end of the day, like the fact, dude, he looked great with his legs, which gives him a huge edge. Dude, that touchdown that you brought up before, that was a crazy touchdown. But aside from Heineke, you got any other little highlights, things that you want to bring up from the Super Wildcard weekend?
Super Wildcard weekend. I think a couple things is watch out for that Ravens defense. I think they are just about to make that Super Bowl run, and where Lamar doesn't have to do too much. Lamar can just do it on his runs. That defense looks insane. But actually, I do have something. I've written this down. This is for next weekend, but the Browns Chiefs game for next weekend, it's Progressive versus State Farm because of Baker and Patrick Mahomes. I thought about that this morning. I was like, whatever. But I think what did we go overall in our picks? 3-3 without the teaser.
Without the teaser, we both went 3-3. With the teaser, I went 4-3. You went 3-4. Took the bait in the Steelers, man. I mean, we both took the bait realistically, but you tune into the Nickelodeon broadcast at all?
One drive, and then I exited out and went to CBS.
What did you think? You weren't messing with the slime. You didn't like the slime?
I thought the part where that Young Sheldon, whatever show that's called, I think it's called Young Sheldon, that little kid would pop up after every flag. He's like, a holding, and then just go on. I'm like, dude, come on. I can't watch this.
Yeah, I just saw a couple of clips. I saw the touchdown. I saw that clip of someone screaming the F word on the broadcast, which is hilarious. I saw a tweet too that was saying you were trying to get kids interested in football, so you made them watch a game with the Bears offense. I thought that was good.
But Trubisky won the MVP, so there you go.
Yeah, big for Trubisky. Good for him. The end. I actually kind of feel bad for him because it's just basically people making fun of him. For those who don't know, the MVP, what was it, a Nickelodeon
valuable player.
And it was a fan vote. It was a fan vote, and Barstool was really pushing everyone to vote for Trubisky, and he ended up winning by a large margin over guys like Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson or whatever. You had Mitchell Trubisky just win by a landslide.
That's just gotta feel terrible because he's being made up. That's just a meme right there. They only
Yeah.
did that to make it a meme, and he's just gonna sit there. He's not gonna have a job next year for the Bears. He's not gonna be a starting quarterback next year. It's just like, oh man, uh,
Yeah,
that's
I
what you
guess
get for
other
sucking.
other real quick wildcard reactions. I talked about it initially. My Steelers lost against the freaking Browns, man. That was a tough game. That first quarter was rough. To the people that think that Mike Tomlin should be fired, please stop. Stop it. That's ridiculous. The guy has never had a losing season. He didn't snap the ball over Ben's head. And if anything, I thought that we did a good job fighting back into that football game. There are a whole lot of teams that would just roll over and get smacked. We at least came
Yeah.
back and fought into that football game. I thought you did a good job bringing up the Ravens defense because you got to remember that is a Titans offense that is easily top 5 in the NFL right now. Whether you
Yeah.
like to hear that or not, that is a great offense. That is a great quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. And that is a team that is notoriously good in the red zone that could not score in the red zone. So I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's watch out for that Ravens offense. Now, let's get into the next segment. We kind of touched on this a little bit before, but now it is basically set in stone. The head coaching vacancies. Me and Steve, we predicted the head coaching vacant. We actually did a pretty decent job. Because we for the most part hit the nail on the head, aside from the Bears that are keeping on to Nagy, because we did it at one point at the end of the regular season. Like, we thought
didn't say Eagles, did we?
Oh no, we didn't say Eagles. Yeah, you're right. We did not say Eagles, but for the most part, Chargers. We thought Anthony Lynn was getting canned. All the other teams were pretty easy though.
Yeah, Jags,
so we're going to be
Jets.
ranking out the head coaching vacancies. Steed, would you like to start?
Yeah, do you want me to just go in order of all my teams?
Sure.
Or just one by one? All right. I got Jags at 1. I got Chargers at 2. I got Texans at 3. Jets 4. No, screw that. Falcons 4. Taking the homers. Jets 5. And then I'm gonna go Eagles Lions to finish it out.
Okay, so I ranked them and then put them into tiers. So I think you'll agree with me on the tiers. Tier 1 jobs, best of the best. 1 Chargers, 2 Jaguars. I think these two are relatively interchangeable. The big difference for me is that the Chargers, you basically already have a roster. You just kind of need some depth and to put it all together. The Jaguars, you need to build a roster, but you have a plethora of cap space, draft picks. You get Trevor Lawrence. You can build the team how you want. So I feel like they're pretty much interchangeable depending on what you want. Do you want to build the team, or do you want to just take what you think is a good roster and just put it together? Easily the number 1 and number 2 jobs. I don't think it's really any question. Then we get into the tier 2 jobs. And I still have them ranked out. So number 3, I have the New York Jets. You have it 5. Reason being, yes, the Jets suck, but they're just kind of a Jags light, right? You have a ton of cap space. You have a ton of draft capital. Most of the roster is going to be gone within the next 2 years. So you just get a clean slate organization almost. You have to build the culture and build the team, but you have a ton of cap space and draft capital to do so you can build the team the way you want. So that's why I have them at 3. At 4, which is a little surprising when I came into this because I thought this was going to be one of the lower tier jobs, is the Texans. This is assuming that you are going to be able to hang on to Deshaun Watson, which I will think you will be able to do. Let's say Bieniemy goes to the Texans. As long as they don't fuck up the head coaching process and don't piss off
think
Watson,
be fine.
You should be able to have him. So of all the jobs, you can argue that the Texans have the best quarterback. I mean, yeah, the Chargers and the Jaguars, you have Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert. But at the end of the day, for sure that Deshaun Watson is a great quarterback. Justin Herbert, yeah, he looked really good. He had a great season. You still don't know for sure, though. You can't automatically assume, hey, this guy's arguably top 5 quarterback in the NFL. You can't. And same thing with Trevor Lawrence. The guy hasn't played yet. So because of that, you have to put the Texans up there. This is a job that's going to be attractive because of that. You just need to build a team. You probably have the worst defensive talent in the NFL, which is a big problem.
Yeah.
You don't have draft picks, which is the other big problem. But I still think that you have to put them at 4 above the Falcons because Falcons are still a tier 2 team. They're at my 5 spot. The reason I have the Falcons below the Texans is just because you have some decisions to make with this team. Now, these last 3 teams, you got some big decisions to make. Are you keeping on to Matt Ryan? Are you keeping on to Julio Jones? Where are you going in the draft with a team with needs at basically every position, but you still have talent? You still have talent. Your cap space is annoying, but I think you can mend it a lot easier than some of these other jobs. If you get rid of Ryan and Julio, then your cap space, you're instantly in a decent spot, after the season. So, you have some decisions to make, but I still think it's a tier 2 job because of the talent. You got tons of first-round picks in the offense. You got good players like Calvin Ridley, Grady Jarrett. These are players that are really good. So I think the Falcons you can turn around. Now we get into the tier 3 jobs, the kind of crappy.
I don't know if I want that one.
And number 6, I have the Eagles, who I thought I was going to go into with the last spot. And the Eagles, man, this is a rough spot because the head coach of the Eagles, alongside the GM, you got some real decisions to make.
Yeah.
Mainly at the quarterback position. What the hell are you doing? Are you keeping Carson Wentz? Are you keeping Jalen Hurts? Who are you starting? Are you drafting one? A lot of people think that Doug Pederson wanted to move on from Carson Wentz, and that's why he was fired. I'm not actually sure that's the case.
I think that was the case. I thought I saw where like him and what's their owner's name again?
Jeffrey Lurie.
Yeah, him and Lurie were not getting along in the offseason, supposedly. They didn't agree with it, and they had some, when they were going to change up, some personnel decisions, Pederson wanted to go inside, but Lurie wanted to go outside, and, they just, Pederson said
Wait, what do you mean? For coaching or for
yeah, for coaching. He wanted to go, inner, pick up a guy inside the organization instead of going outside and hiring a guy. And Lurie didn't like that. And apparently Pederson, towards the middle of the season, probably a little bit before, he said the relationship was bad, and he just it was kind of unfixable at that point.
Yeah, we'll talk about more about Doug Pederson. We're basically an Eagles podcast at this point. In the next segment, but at the end of the day, Eagles, I somehow have in my 6th spot. You can argue they have the worst cap situation in the league, even though the Saints are more under the cap. They had a plan. They're trying to shell out, win it all your last year with Drew Brees. I can understand. The Eagles, you got some bad contracts. You have Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey under contract until 2022. You have really not a lot of young talent at all. Holes at basically every position on the field aside from your pass rush. Not a fun spot, but I still have them above the Lions at 7. Lions are my last team. Lions, even though from an outsider's perspective, you may be thinking, hey, how do you have the Lions below the Eagles? At the end of the day, this is the Lions. When you're the head coach of the Lions, there have been good guys that I think have been equipped for the job that have failed in this organization. You need to build a team from the ground up. At least with the Eagles, yeah, we're in a crap spot, but I do think they have some stuff going at least. The Lions, it's like literally saying to a coach, hey, here's just a flat piece of land, go build New York City. That is really hard. And just do it with random draft picks. No free agent wants to go to Detroit unless you're getting paid big bucks.
They need to be the team that relocates to London,
Yeah. I just I kind of ranked it out as if places I would want to go if I were a coach, right? Dude, last place I'm going is Detroit. That is just it. It's been a dumpster fire for years, ever
You're
since I
not
was
catching
born.
me in the Motor City.
It is the place that is known for where good players go to die. You'd have to pay me a whole lot if I was a qualified coach to go coach at Detroit. So, speaking of coaching, speaking of all this, that's our head coaching landing spots ranked out. You have any final thoughts, Steve?
uh, no, I think there's like good enough coaches out there for like a lot of these teams. It's just the question, once you get in the bottom half of those teams, do they just want to wait and in the future and get like maybe a better job opportunity, because like you're right, like the Jags and Chargers are like, two top positions. Like they're going to get the best of the best because you got everything.
Yeah, you got a whole
You
lot
got
of
the
stuff going
quarterback. So
for
it'd be
you.
interesting.
Um,
Yeah. So it'd be interesting.
but let's go on. Since we're basically an Eagles podcast, we got to talk about it. Doug Pederson is
I hate talking
canned.
about this team.
Man, this
Yeah, I
team,
guess
it's
can.
just
Get
one
out of here,
week
Dougie.
after the next, they are in the news for something crazy, and it seems like it's just crazier and crazier and crazier. I did not see this coming. Initially coming into the offseason, they said that they were going to keep on Doug Pederson. According to sources close to Doug Pederson, the same people that broke the sources that he was fired, I think it was a little bit more mutual than people expected because Doug Pederson said he was tired of people telling him what to do. And we kind of alluded to it on the tank job segment from last week. From the outside, you could kind of see it. I think, we had speculated that the higher ups in the organization forced him to play Sudfeld and lose the game, whether they were actually tanked or not. We believe that they were. I
Yeah.
think you can see that with their player personnel decisions in the draft, especially. Like, this is a team in 2017 when I did my Eagles analysis was a run first team, a power football team. We beat you at the line of scrimmage. We have a lot of big bodies out there. To now, it looks like, coming into, they just drafted a bunch of fast receivers. Miles Sanders. It looks like they were a team now that wanted to spread you out and beat you with speed, and they threw on basically every first down through a ball through the pass, every first down, which was not working, and it was head scratching a lot of the times with the decisions that was being made because guys like Jason Peters I thought should have been benched weeks ago before he was.
Eons.
And hearing that Doug Pederson from his camp saying, I was tired of people telling me what to do, I think it completely makes sense now what we were seeing from the Eagles this whole entire season. I think that the higher ups, the data analytics, all this jazz just got to a point where it's like, is Doug Pederson even the coach anymore? So, I mean, I think he should be in the running for a job. Steve, what are your just overall thoughts on the whole saga of the Eagles that is now concluded with Doug Pederson being canned?
This is just like, the icing on the cake. The Eagles have been such a hot topic since they threw away that game. And now with Doug Pederson gone, maybe he can be put to rest. But, I agree with you. They clearly did not see eye to eye. Like I said a little bit before, Pederson said the relationship was terrible mid-season, probably why you saw like this team was in contention for a little bit. I mean, you could won 2 games and been in contention week 13 this season in this division. But I think that's why you saw this Eagles team not really like play up to an Eagles team par, maybe. I know they beat the Saints, but it is interesting now. Doug Pederson will find another job in this league. He will. Like whether it's a head coach, maybe for the Jets, I could like see the Jets jetting it up, or like somewhere on the staff. But now, what does this mean for Carson Wentz? I think this increases Carson Wentz's chances of staying in Philadelphia, like drastically. I was pretty much sold. Doug Peterson was going to be back and Wentz was going to be gone, probably playing for the Colts or something next year. I think now he has a very good chance of staying. because they get a new head coach in there. He still sees the talent ability of Carson. It's like, let me get one crack at him before y'all give up on Carson Wentz. I could see that.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people have been speculating, is that the decision to fire Doug Pederson was basically the Eagles chose Wentz over Pederson. And to be honest, I disagree.
I don't think that's it.
I still think that Carson Wentz's time in Philadelphia is done. And I think the big problem with the vision between Doug Pederson and Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman was that Doug Pederson wanted to win football games. And I think this Eagles team sees this as a multiple year project. And I think that Doug Pederson did not want to be a part of that. I think that he thought, I think what was going on behind the scenes was that Doug Pederson was advocating, hey, give me a year with Carson Wentz. Let me have some control. Let me hire the guys I want to hire again. Yeah, I may have screwed up and whatnot last year, but I can still do this job. I'm still suited for the league, and I can turn this around. Just, stop staring at the damn computers and let the football guy start making some decisions. And I think that Jeffrey Lurie didn't want to hear that. I think that he sided and, he wanted to go with Howie Roseman. He wanted to go with this new way of looking at football, through the data analytics perspective and keep that going. And that was, Doug Pederson. It was either Doug Pederson or Roseman, and they chose Roseman. And at the end of the day, I don't think Doug Pederson should have been canned. Which is weird to say because I was really pissed at Doug Pederson a lot this season. I can understand why people wanted him to be canned. Looking at the tape, it was just ridiculous. But I'm going to come out and I'm going to stick to my guns. I don't think a lot of these problems were because of Pederson. I think that he was being forced to run a system that wasn't suited to this football team. He's not in charge of the player personnel, which is a big problem with this football team. The fact they haven't hit on draft picks. They've been trying to force a system onto this football team that is like the Chiefs and like these other, college offenses that are now coming to the NFL where, from the data analytics perspective is better. That's why they were throwing on first downs all the time and why they've been choosing fast players in the draft that can stretch the field and all that jazz. I think that is why the Eagles have been struggling, is that at the end of the day, the computers and the algorithms don't have everything down yet. And yeah, I think we kind of saw that unfold the past couple of seasons. I still think that the Eagles think that they know something the NFL doesn't. I think they got a little bit too ahead of themselves and thought they were too smart because they won that Super Bowl 3 years ago. And, the other problem with Pederson and Lurie, I guess, a little bit, was that they weren't able to replace staff effectively. Their position coaches and whatnot, it kind of screwed them. And then the Carson Wentz situation was just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. You paid the guy $130 million and he ends up becoming a backup quarterback. You can't do that and expect to win football games, especially now that you're 50-something, 60-something $million over the cap. And the cap maybe even going down. They're in a rough spot. But I don't think Pederson was the problem. I do think that Pederson could have turned it around if you gave him a little bit more control, and I think paired him, or at least had a little bit more of a connection with him and Roseman that I think is just deteriorated. They were supposedly blaming each other. I think it's two guys that egos got a little bit too big after winning the Super Bowl. They both thought that they were the reason for the Super Bowl, and they both want balance. And I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
It's interesting, though. Usually after a coach wins a Super Bowl, they're given a whole lot more leeway on what they can do. And especially in someone like Doug Pederson, during his tenure, name the coaches that have more playoff wins than Doug Pederson. Belichick, that's probably it, right? I mean, he's got 4 playoff wins.
Three out of the last 4 years. There are teams that would give up a whole lot to do that,
Yeah. He's 4-2 with a Super Bowl and in the playoffs. Belichick's one. Yeah, Belichick probably has like 7 or 8 wins in the playoffs, and maybe now Sean McVay after that win last week is tied with him. But no, actually, he would still be leading, right? Yeah, I mean, dude, Doug Peterson. Like, I think it is just simple as like he didn't like him, and he didn't like him. And
Yeah.
it's just at the end of the day, I don't want to work for you. You don't want to work for me.
No, I do think that Doug Peterson deserves to be a coach in the league. And now let's go into where we think the Eagles are going to go from here. I think the Eagles are going to shock some people with their head coaching hiring. I think they did that a little bit before. They've kind of looking back at who they've hired in the past. It's always been kind of some surprise guys that they kind of mold into coaches, and it's not like an established guy. It seems like they kind of try to make their own coaches. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that, especially with the fact of that I think that they can't, with the setup that they have, and with Roseman and other guys higher in the organization wanting a lot of power, I don't think that they can take a guy that's going to be like, hey, I'm coming in, I have the power, I want to run my system. I think that they need a guy that they know that will...
Is a puppet.
Yeah, it'll be a puppet a little bit, where it's like, okay, we can have our hand in the pot and make player personnel decisions, and this guy's going to play here like this, and you're just going to make it happen, and that's why I think that it's going to be a kind of a surprise hire, in my opinion, where it's not going to be one of these big name guys that's going to go in and put my stamp on the Eagles. It's going to be, hey, you're going to listen to what we have to say and work with what we have to give you.
It's going to be Chip Kelly.
Chip Kelly coming back.
Chip Kelly just comes back. I don't know who they're going to hire. I really don't.
Supposedly they're interviewing Gerard Mayo.
Gerard Mayo? Okay. Is Joe Brady like too kind of...
No, see, I think Joe Brady would... See, that's the exact kind of hire I don't think they're going to do, because Joe Brady's the kind of guy that I feel like would want to come in and put his stamp on the Eagles, which you'd have to be an idiot.
Wouldn't they just go for like a... Wouldn't they just go for a huge sabermetrics coach then? Blah.
I don't know what they would go for, to be honest. Like,
honestly, they can hire me and tell me whatever they want me to do. Just give me a check. If you're looking for a puppet, I'll gladly be a puppet and just be kind of like a Dan Quinn on the sideline, just another cheerleader clapping hands.
The clap guy. So yeah. Are they gonna hire that Jason Garrett then? If they need a clap guy.
They do need a clap guy.
Clap guy puppet, like
nobody claps better than Jason Garrett. Nobody claps better than Jason Garrett.
He's got years of practice clapping on the sideline.
He's a beast at it. They get Anthony Lynn.
But yeah, with that being said, that's going to be the end of the episode 32 in the books. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. Comment if you're feeling pretty frisky. We respond to all comments, basically. I read all the comments. We don't get a ton, but I do read them all.
Watch your mouse.
But thank you so much for listening, and peace out.